Hey, Neil, welcome to Crosswalk Talk. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Neil McDonough, the actor and filmmaker behind the new movie, The Last Rodeo, directed by John Avnet of Fried Green Tomatoes fame. And Neil, I really enjoyed watching this trailer. I'm loving the plot. Let me read a plot summary before we get going. The Last
Oh, I'd love
Rodeo,
to hear.
the plot summary says a 50-year-old ex-bull rider decides to ride again after a crisis strikes his family. That's the shortest plot summary I could find, Neil. Of course, your company is behind this movie. Why did you want to make this film?
We were doing a film, Reve and we have our own production company, the McDonough Company, and we're doing a film at the time called The Warrant Part 2 for INSP. And as I was filming, Reve and the kids were home, and I was filming in Arizona, and I was just missing them as I do. And a dark thought came into my brain and said, what would ever happen if something ever happened to Reve? And then I'm fairly certain that God planted the idea in my head. Rocky on a Bull, retired rodeo legend, has to go back for a certain reason and ride again. I've never been to a rodeo. I'd never seen the rodeo. I've been riding horses since I was a little kid, but never anything on a bull. And within 24 hours, I had voice dictated basically the outline of the whole film. It just spewed out of me. And then I called my writing partner, Derek Presley, and then we started on a draft. And within a week, we had our first draft. And within a week after that, we had the financing. It was This was God's divine intervention all over the place. And for Reve and I to produce a film like this that really kind of speaks to the heartland of America. And this is something I think Hollywood's kind of lost its way a bit with, and I'm guilty of it myself, being part of some pretty dark films at times. I think they forgot to talk about what America really is and the values that America has in the films that they make. And we want to get back to that. And I think we did. And when we hired John Avnet, we were blessed and fortunate enough to have someone like John Avnet, the maestro, on, he helped with the script and helped mold the script in a certain way. He pulls things out of actors that no other director I've ever worked with has, and I've worked with some pretty great directors. John Avnet to me is my favorite director. When they said, "Who do you want to direct the film?" there was only one choice, and it was John. And he said
Mm.
yes, and I was so fortunate because of it. I got to do it alongside my best friend and love of my life, Reve, and I couldn't be happier or more blessed to be able to sitting here with you, Michael, talking about this film.
How does this film go beyond just being a rodeo movie to exploring deeper personal themes? Because it deals with family tragedy.
Well, for years I had to play the villain in lots of movies because I wouldn't do intimate scenes, and everyone knows that. And then I got crucified once, as we all know, and they took everything away from me. And there was 2 years of me just kind of wallowing in self pity and wallowing in a glass of whiskey, and it was I was like a bad country song, So uh, when I finally came out of it, I started to write about it and think about it a lot. And this idea for the last rodeo, I swear it came to me from above because it was one of those gifts that God gave to me. And here we are talking about this film that really preaches to the heartland of America, what the American values are, what we all aspire to. But, you know, people ask me, is it a faith-based film? I said, no, it's not really a faith-based film. It's a really good movie. And it's a movie that talks about real life problems, the problems that I went through as when I lost everything. And,
Mm.
also losing people along my journey in life and my addiction to alcohol and all the faults that I've had and the flaws that I have in my life, how I could come out the other side of it and do the right thing for him. And I wrote about it, and that's what this is. This film is as much as close to Neal McDonough as I could ever write or act in. And we watched the film last night with the whole family, and it was pretty awesome. Like, Dad, you're playing, that was you, wasn't it? Because they're used to seeing me playing villains in films, and until the last couple of years where I got to play heroes finally for the first time with Homestead we do with Angel Studios. There's this little $5 million film that just crossed $23 million in the box office. That's astounding. And I
Mm.
got to be the good guy with the cowboy hat on, and the Warrant movies that we did where I got to play the good guy, the cool sheriff, and other projects that from Boone and Redstone and all these other films that I helped write. I'm in a time in my life where I got to where people have faith in me to be able to make a project that all these films have made profits. We haven't made a film with the McDonough Company yet that hasn't made a profit, knock on wood, but I think it's because we're writing films to our customers, and our customers are the heartland of America. My parents came over from Ireland. My dad came over from Ireland off the boat with 12 bucks in his pocket, walked straight in the army office and said, "Make me an American." And they shipped him overseas for 7 years. And after that, he came back the proudest American. And
Mm.
because of that, he instilled the values of America into all of his kids. And I don't take that lightly. So to be a first generation American, knowing what it was like to come from immigrant parents, and to write to that, and to understand what really the core values of America are, we're making films that speak to that. And I couldn't, I'm the most blessed guy when you think about where I've been, the things that I've gone through, and where I am now coming on the other side, making films that give glory to God. Wow. Uh, I don't know how I got here. It was through his grace and an amazing partner in my wife, Reve, that I'm here right now talking to you, Michael, about an amazing film that we have coming out in 2 months. I couldn't be more proud.
Without giving away the too much of the plot or giving away the ending, what are some of the themes that this film tackles? I know personal redemption, reconciliation. Those are two that I kind of glimpsed.
Uh, Sickness, cancer, um, getting my butt whooped on a bull, what you have to do to scrape yourself off the floor at times when you're at your bottom and you think that life is against you, and you realize life is never against you. You make yourself against life. And
Mm.
when you have your problems in life, you make it all about you and your own problems instead of making it about God first, me second, family first, me second. And those are the tenets that we kind of live by in our house. And I wrote to that. And when you see it on the screen, when you see the family struggles that we have in the last rodeo, and what you will do to protect and provide and make things happen for your family, that's what it's all about. And for me in my house, that's what it's about. What can I do to make sure that my family is provided for, and I'm doing the right things as a dad and as a husband? Not just about me, but what's better for my family. Not from, again, when I make decisions about me, they always come out in the wrong way. But if I make a decision about my family before me, or God before me, my decisions are always right. And it's just kind of a simple way to live. And that's what we're writing to. And that's the films that we're making. And uh, if you like films like that, if you like films that talk about real life issues in the heartland of America, you need to come and support films like this, support films that Angel Studios does. And by going to the theater and saying, yeah, we love films that talk about these issues, not just the darkness of Hollywood, that speaks volumes in Hollywood. And they'll start making films that really talk about these issues. And I'm just fortunate that I kind of got ahead of the curve, and we're making these films that speak to those issues, and it's just awesome.
Neil, there are very few westerns right now, or very few movies in this genre that are rated PG, which I think this one's going to be rated PG. Most are rated R, TVMA. Is that a challenge to you to make a movie, um, a western, a gritty movie that keeps it largely in the family friendly realm? Is that something you embrace?
Yeah, I want to go to the movies and with you know my whole family, and not have to worry about covering their eyes or covering their ears at certain parts during the film. Maybe I'm old school, corny. That's just the way that I am, but it's working. And everywhere I go, people say, "Thank you so much for making films." Sometimes I'm the bad guy in like The Shift. I was the devil in The Shift. But yet I have people coming up to me saying, "Thank you so much for making a film like that talks about goodness in life and evils in life and real things that actually happen and real situations that are hard to get through." And now I get to play the good guy in these films. It's something I've always aspired to, but there are certain reasons why I couldn't. I can't kiss the girl at the end of the film, but I do in the last rodeo because I get to lock lips with my wife, and it is one of the greatest things I've ever had in cinema. I can't wait for everyone to see it. I'm just kind of, I finally get to be John Wayne. I get to be Paul Newman. I get to do the films that, The Sting or The Cowboys, which is my favorite film of all time. I get to be that guy in those movies, and I finally get to do it at my age, and it's just, I'm so fortunate and blessed to get to do it alongside my wife. Gosh, it's just it's awesome.
Neil, it seems like we are experiencing a renaissance right now in family and faith programming. Seems like there's an abundance of excellent content. If you go back 1 or 2 decades, that was not the case. I'm curious,
No.
do you agree with that statement? And if so, what is driving this abundance of
Well,
great content.
I think films have to do everything. They have to try stuff. They have to go through waves. They have to see what's going on. But it always seems that it always comes back to what's a film that actually talks about issues, whether it's a PG or an R-rated film or a G-rated film. They got to talk about real issues. That's the key. You got to talk about family problems. Everyone has a family. A lot of them are broken up. So when you go to the movies and you get to see families that are broken up and trying to get through it, sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. But it's the effort to getting to that success. Everyone can understand that. So to make films that talk about those issues, like real issues, not just saccharine sweet films, but real films, real movies that talk about and grapple with true life issues. I think everybody wants to see that in a movie. I can't watch a lot of the movies that are in the theater, and I'm guilty of being part of a lot of these movies and TV shows that are really dark. I mean, I've never seen Yellowstone, and I don't watch any of my projects. I just don't like really watching myself
Mm.
unless I have to. Reve and I will go to a premiere of ours, and we'll do the red carpet and say hi to everyone, sneak out the back door, go have a dinner, and then go to the after party and say, the movie was great. It was awesome. But now I get to see films that I actually want to go and sit in the theater and watch. When I saw Homestead, I was so excited to see that film. The Last Rodeo, like I said, I got to see it last night with my kids. Reve and I had a private screening of it last night, and my kids were so proud of mom and dad.
Mm. Angel Studios seems to be driving part of this, though, Neal, in terms of their unique model, crowdfunding. Kind of give us your thoughts on what Angel
Angel
is doing.
Studios had about a 500,000 people in their guild a couple months ago, and I think yesterday they passed the million member guild in the guild threshold, which is really kind of astounding. And what is that telling all of us? That people are supporting films that support family values. And again, you can talk about tough issues, but it has to be in line to what a whole family can go to the cinema and watch. And I think we've lost that along the way. Angel Studios decided, no, we're going to bring that back. We're going to make films that actually talk about issues and everyone can go and see. We were so blessed to have a relationship with Angels now that all of our films are going through Angel Studios. Our next one, The Wicked and the Righteous, we wrote this film, Cain and Abel in the West. And it's awesome. And it's dark and it talks about, death and family issues. But at the end, there's lightness by the end. So for us, for Reve and I at the McDonough Company and our amazing partner, Kip Conweiser, the three of us are doing films that give glory to him, talk about real values, talk about real issues, and are entertaining at the same time. And I couldn't be happier with what we're turning out with Angel Films and have them as a partner. And here we go. And, if you love those films, please go out and support The Last Rodeo because Hollywood would start to veer off making all the dark stuff, and they'll bring lightness back to their programs as well.
You may have already answered my final question. I was going to ask you, what are your final thoughts and what do you want moviegoers to know about The Last Rodeo?
If you're a rodeo fan, it's ridiculous. It's the bull riding. Look, we got to have the real PBR bulls. We got to have the real PBR riders. If you're making a movie about the New York Yankees and you get to have Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, in the movie playing themselves, that's what we had with the last rodeo. I go up
Mm.
against the greatest riders and they're real riders. So it just feels like a real, it's almost like a documentary feeling because there I am going up against the best riders on the planet and they're playing themselves. So if you're a rodeo fan, you're going to lose your marbles. We did the first teaser we released in Madison Square Garden about 2 months ago for the first big event of the year. And this is New York City. This is Manhattan. And there's 18,000 screaming fans with cowboy hats. And we released the teaser and I spoke to the crowd and they went nuts. And this is Manhattan, the toughest crowd there could be. And they can't wait for this film to come out. So I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to see what happens with the numbers on this film. But more importantly, I'm just so proud of this film that I got to do this story that's a really personal story, just really kind of a lot about my life and this character. And I got to do it alongside my wife, Reve, and I get to kiss her on screen. So I can't wait for everyone to see it. I'm so stinking proud of this movie. And yeah, there we are. I'm not sure what else to say, but there it is.